Hello, hello. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to another LinkedIn Live, Monday LinkedIn Live. Today we have an amazing guest, but before we go to that, just a quick reminder for those of you who don't know yet, we are streaming this here on LinkedIn and also to YouTube. So if you want to watch replays, if you want to watch past interviews, instead of going through my news feed, you can just go to YouTube channel, type in my name or Fail Coach. While you're there, feel free to subscribe so that we can push the number even higher. But enough of my random rambling. Bob, it's a huge pleasure to have you here as a guest today, and I want to ask you first if you can quickly introduce yourself to the audience.
Of course. Well, first of all, it's my pleasure to be here. I've very much been looking forward to our time together today, so thank you so much. And I am the founder of Career Club, and Career Club is a service that I developed over about the past year to help people get a better job faster, and we can talk about that in a bit. My career history, though, is in sales and sales leadership, and working with world-class brands like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola, Samsung, people like that. But my passion has been helping people in job transition, and hoping to encourage them and hopefully empower and enable them along the way. So looking forward to our conversation today.
Perfect. Well, I mean, a lot of people in my audience aren't entrepreneurs. Most of them are, but not all of them. So they're in job roles. They might be in leadership roles, senior leadership roles, and I'm guessing, especially now after Corona, it gave us all time to move a little bit inwards, reflect a little bit, think about things from a different perspective, because we weren't so much busy on the outside, we were more busy on the inside. So many of them might be considering or thinking to do some sort of a move transition. So I think this topic can be a really, really good one. So where do we start at the beginning? Why would somebody consider changing company or changing a role? Maybe let's start there.
Yeah. Well, I would say my experience is there's kind of three different categories that people might fall into. I'm sure there's more, but at least three that immediately I've been observing. One is just straight up, I am in between opportunities for whatever reason. My company didn't make it through COVID or something's happened, but I'm looking for a job. I'm in between roles. The second one is what I a little tongue in cheek call Sunday night sucks. Some people call that the Sunday scaries or whatever, but for some reason, I'm not loving my job. It could be my boss. It could be the culture. It could be I don't want to commute back to where we used to go to before COVID. Lots and lots of reasons that people don't love their job. But if Sunday night is not fun regularly, people are starting to figure out, and to your exact point, that I've had a little bit of time to reflect and think about what I really want out of my life, and having my weekend ruined and a lot of my weekdays not fun isn't an option. So that's the second one. The third one are people that are much more intentional and deliberate. I think this also speaks to your point about people being a little bit more internally focused in terms of like what I would think of is like a career builder, or if you think about companies that have a tech stack, and they've got this layer of technology and then this layer and this layer of technology. Similarly, people are starting to figure out, in 8 years, I want to be the general manager of this part of the business. I want to be a regional vice president. I want to be the global brand manager, whatever. And they're starting to really plot their careers. And I think there are career coaches out there. They're doing great work helping people kind of map out a course for if this is where you want to be in X years. Let's look at the experiences you're going to need to accumulate to be where you want to be on time. And so, those are three. I don't have a job. I don't love my job. I'm aspiring to a different kind of job over time. Those would all be reasons I immediately think of as why people would be looking.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, and especially the third one, when you said, gave me a cue for my next question. So, of course, there was a commercial in Slovenia for lottery, and somebody would win a lottery, and then they walk into boss's office, they have scissors in their hand, they take the tie, they cut the tie and just throw it into boss's head. And that's kind of like, at least in Slovenia, the dream, like you just walk in and you do. But in reality, you were mentioning, career coaches, making a plan, figuring things out. So I'm guessing that probably the best way to change your career is not to just decide on a Sunday, walk in on a Monday and say, you know what, fuck off, everybody. You probably put some thought in it. You do a little bit of research. And this is where I would say the bulk of what you do and the bulk of your knowledge can come in handy. And maybe you can walk us a little bit through that process and walk us a little bit through what are some of the steps that we can do before we switch.
Yeah. Okay. So, kind of keeping on theme with our topic today, which was around keeping an even keel. One of the things to your point about telling the boss to F off or whatever is, we're emotional creatures at our core. And one of the things that I've identified or observed is just that tends to be three dominant emotions that people have in job search. One is fear. I just, like, it's not going to work out for me. Like, whatever skills I have aren't in demand. I'm too old, I'm too young, whatever it might be. But I'm just afraid that it's not going to work out for me. The second emotion is confusion. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the process is. And so I'm paralyzed because I don't even know how to get the car out of the driveway. Don't even know what to do. And the third one, which I think is maybe the most insidious, is bitterness. This is like, you could still be working at the company. You could have gotten fired, laid off, whatever, but you're bitter. And it's like, if you knew how badly they treated me, if you knew how badly I got screwed, it's just not fair. And when you carry that baggage with you, you radiate, that anger and that bitterness. And I always quote Nelson Mandela on this one, where he says, bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for your enemy to die. Obviously, the only person that's getting hurt in that equation is you. So my first advice to people before they begin a job search, whether, again, you're in transition or thinking about it, is make sure your head is in a good place. An analogy that I've used before is people whose head is not in a good place and they come into the process afraid, confused, or angry, or some bad combination of all three of those. It's like airing a bad TV commercial. You talk about your lottery commercial, but it's like airing a bad TV commercial. Well, I started all my networking and I'm meeting with a lot of people. And my advice to some folks has been, stop meeting with people for a little bit. Slow down, catch your breath, have a plan. Don't be in a rush, but you need to stop meeting with people until you're really kind of bringing forward more the brand that you want to be communicating to people.
And clear out the potential negative energy and the buildup of all those emotions, because that will carry into your networking. It's almost like in sales, when you're needy, when you need to make a close, people just sense it and they put defenses on. So I'm guessing going out there being bitter or with that emotional baggage will do more harm than good.
100%, which is why I say it's like airing bad TV commercials. You're on TV a lot and people know who your brand is. It's just not a good representation. And oftentimes in networking, once you've met with somebody, it's like, oh, did you meet with Bob already? And like, oh yeah, I met with Bob. Like, don't want to meet with him again. And part of the thing in networking too, that I don't think people always understand, is when you're networking with somebody, it's really kind of like a job interview. In a lot of ways, it is an interview, because if somebody's networking with me, and as you're saying, Miha, they're portraying all this negative energy, the math I'm doing in my head is, do I want to introduce this person into my network? Probably not. And so your networking can be really ineffective. So you've ended up burning up a contact And not only have you turned that person off, but you've also potentially shut the door to other people in their network who could be helping you. So the emotional piece here is so important, for people to take their time, slow down. And when I say folks, like if you need to go vent, yell, cry, whatever it is that you need to do, go do that. Then start your networking adventure.
Yeah, take an axe, go to, I don't know, into the wood and just chop down one tree, or go to your local gym or something like that.
Do something, yeah.
The funny thing that popped into my head, because you said you were in sales and marketing, and I mean, in networking, in job interviews, what we are doing is we are selling ourselves, and we're not selling the problem, we're selling the solution always. The problem can create relatability, but what sells, what makes a sell, what makes somebody give you a credit card or give you a paycheck is always the solution. We don't buy problems. On problems we can relate, but then we are buying always the solution. And if you bring all that negativity in, you're not selling the solution, you're just showing the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And hiring by its very definition is a risky business, and nobody wants to make a bad decision. So this is why you see these, pretty arduous interviewing processes that people go through. And as you say, when we're selling a solution, that's pretty much the calculus that the hiring manager is doing in his or her head is, can this person solve my problem? We're going to, potentially bridge into a different topic around interviewing. But, what I try and show people or teach people is when you're telling your stories about past accomplishments and how you've solved some problem for a prior employer, a big piece of that is connecting the dots. It's how that relates to the problem the person you're talking to is trying to solve. Because as I said, that's the calculus they're doing in their head is, can I relate the story and the accomplishment this person's telling me to a problem I'm trying to solve right now, and hoping the person in this role can help me solve. So, even how we tell our stories in an interview or even in a networking situation, the thing is to make sure that whatever we're sharing with people is relevant to solving their problem, because that's really the thing they're most interested in.
Yeah. Do you see, so I've mostly been on the hiring side. I've never been on the side where I would go out and try and find a job. And in the beginning, in the early days, and those were some good lessons that I've learned, I would hire people for skills. Yeah. And only many years later, I realized that hard skills are the easiest to learn or the easiest to acquire. If somebody is maybe junior, but they need to be more senior, it's much harder to change who the person is. Soft skills, personality traits, habits, things like that. So when you're working with people who are applying for jobs, how do you guide them in those directions? So after they've done some self-work and they vented it out, and now it's time to start approaching the job seeking part.
Yeah, that is such a great point that you're bringing up. There's a book that's coming out here, I think, in just like a week or so, by Steve Cadigan, who was the very first chief human resource officer at LinkedIn. So his book is called Workquake, and he's talking exactly about the point that you're making, Miha, which is that, the technical skills can be taught. What I can't teach is the ability to learn, the ability to care, the ability to be adaptable. Those are the things that the current and future work environment are really required, because things are changing so fast these days that business models that were something even a year ago could be, being replaced by a new business model or a new way of doing things. And so the real asset that somebody brings to the table is the ability to learn and adapt very, very quickly. I believe that is not age dependent, gender dependent, nationality dependent, whatever. Those are things that people mostly come to the party with. And you can teach the other things. A smart person will figure it out. Most things in life aren't hard. They're just new or different. And, talented people can figure them out. So, to your point about, I've got my head in a good space. The next piece of it is, okay, what is my brand? What problems do I help companies solve? And how do I do that? And building out that Venn diagram of what am I good at? What am I interested, or I think it's where it gets a little overused, but passionate about? And what is the market looking for? And if you're familiar with Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, basically what I just described was the hedgehog concept. But again, it's like, what am I good at? What do I care about? What am I genuinely interested in? And what is the market looking for? That can change over time. But when you can find the sweet spot of those three circles, that's a very powerful value proposition to bring to the marketplace. Then the goal is you just have to find the folks who are looking for that solution that you're able to now clearly articulate.
Yeah, then you just need to put yourself out there, and then it's time to do some networking, leverage some trust that you already have throughout your network, and it shouldn't be too hard to land the perfect job.
Well, it's hard. It's harder than you think, though, at the risk of interrupting, because a couple of things. One is, from a recruiting perspective, that process is still pretty broken, right? Most people are applying online on Indeed or LinkedIn and wondering why nobody ever calls them back. It's because the technology has been, fine-tuned to keep people out, not to bring people. I say, these applicant tracking systems are building walls, not doors, into organizations. So the process is kind of broken in that sense. And then, you really tapped right into it, Mihai. The trick then becomes the selling part. So this is why, I've kind of said this is a big sales and marketing exercise. The marketing is, what's my brand? What problems do I solve? How do I articulate it? Who's my target audience for this? How do I find them? Those are all marketing questions. The selling part then becomes, I've got to go do the activities. I got to knock on doors. I got to meet people. And a salesperson, sales 101 is, it's a numbers game, right? So you have to talk to a lot of people. And, you've got
especially in the beginning when you're not super clear on what your product market fit is. You have to talk to a lot of them to really just clarify the message, where you want to position yourself, and so it's a process. And I mean, even with entrepreneurs, I mean, it's no different. The technical part is easy, preparing things, making a plan, and this and that. But then actually going out there, talking to people, doing the sales conversations, making a sale, the hardest part.
Pitching a client or pitching an investor. Right. I mean, it's very easy to, have it all in PowerPoint. It's a completely different animal to go do live television and have people ask you questions you weren't expecting. Even hearing yourself say the words. And I agree with you, there's a lot of benefit just in repetition and meeting with people and kind of just, as somebody says, wrapping your mouth around the words and hearing yourself say it is very different than just reading a piece of paper going, and kind of just, thinking the words to yourself versus having to say them in front of a real person, getting live reaction from folks, again, fielding live questions. And not everybody loves your baby as much as you do. And kind of getting even sometimes some critical feedback, all those things, just take a lot of practice to get good at. And I think one of the things that most job seekers underestimate is how many contacts this is going to take, how many people they're going to have to talk to, how their job probably isn't going to come from the people that are on the speed dial on their phone, but are going to come from somebody who's 2, 3, 4, degrees away from where they started.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, maybe I said it wrongly because just like you, I was selling all my life, and that part comes super easy, super natural to me, just like it does to you. Networking, making connections, figuring out things. But yeah, to most people, that's really the hardest part. So how about if we focus a little bit on this part, and because most people are struggling with this part. Not that the first two steps are easy, especially the first one, vent it out, cleanse yourself, and bring the energies up. I mean, that inner work is hard as hell, and I understand that. Now, the second part, putting things together, might be easier when you have somebody like yourself, Bob, to guide you through the process. And then we come to this third step, which is now you have to go out there and you have to do the interviews and the selling and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
on. So are there any I don't know, techniques or any
Yes,
exercises or something that you feel like sharing with the audience that might help them with this
for
particular
sure.
thing?
For sure. I think there's some things people can do very specifically. Before I dive into that, I do want to kind of go back to the head cleansing, and that sounds like shampoo. But the things that around your attitude. When I was originally writing a course called Making Your Own Weather, which is a lot of the concepts that we're talking about here, I did start off with the attitude piece, but I would also suggest that it's not that sequential, in that the attitude piece undergirds the whole process. It's a job search, or back to your thing with entrepreneurs pitching new clients, or pitching investors, whatever. There's more rejection than acceptance in that process. And so we have to constantly keep replenishing our attitude and readjusting it so that the lows don't get too low and we just become discouraged. Or we also don't become deceived by the highs because we had an amazing sales call or an amazing interview, and then it doesn't work out. And that can be crushing to some people. So just a little kind of
No, yeah, absolutely. The inner work never stops. That's a
Yes.
lifelong journey. It never stops. You start with it, and then you just continue doing that throughout the whole lifetime.
Yes. Now to answer your question around kind of the kind of, are there practical steps that people can take in terms of the selling piece? I'm going to borrow from the former head of HR at Google, Laszlo Bach. This is like 2014 or something, but he published an article around the perfect resume. And what he was talking about was a little formula. And while we're talking in the context of resume, this I think will extend beyond that. But he's got his little XYZ formula. I accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. I accomplished X. I grew sales 12% as measured by Y, a $2 million year-over-year increase by doing Z, segmenting the marketplace and creating 3 different value propositions based on 3 different market segments. Okay, that is really specific. It's measurable. The language of business is numbers. And again, when we're hiring somebody, if I'm the hirer, I am looking for people that know how to get stuff done, and not just people I like hanging out with, but people that can actually get things done. So for the person who's struggling with sales, there's a couple things then. One is being able to have tangible, measurable accomplishments, because what that does is it kind of addresses a secondary issue, which is people that are shy or naturally humble. And this whole selling thing sounds like bragging. It makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want to do that. And the way I say it is, it's not bragging if it's true. It's not bragging if I say it's 72 degrees outside. It's a beautiful day. It is what it is. It's not bragging if I said, grew sales 12%, $2 million year on year by segmenting the market, blah, blah, blah. That's just what happened. It's the truth. And it's different than saying, well, I'm a creative problem solver, strategic thinker. Really? I mean, prove it. Like those are easy words to say and hard ones to prove. And so go ahead.
One question. So, when it comes to sales, it if you did it well, it's very easy to say I did so and so in this time, and made this and this profit. But there are many roles in the company. I mean, I get this with when I coach coaches that are not into something specific, when it's something more health wise or emotions wise or something like that, and then they get super unclear on how to put something into tangible terms. And of course, in corporations, there are many roles where people don't really connect the dots. Like, ooh, an accountant. Well, what
Can we talk
tangible?
about that? No,
Yeah,
I hear that objection, if that's what it is. But there's basically you can kind of boil things down in a business to three things: did it make money, save money, or mitigate risk? So you're right. Sales is the easiest one. It's the most black and white one that I can think of anyway. I hit my target, I didn't hit my target. And that's why salespeople kind of live and die by their quota and stack rankings. But using your accountant example, well, if I was an accounts receivable clerk, I could have reduced our day sales outstanding from 54 days to 47 days. And on accounts receivable balance went down from 10 million to 8 million, $2 million. Cost of capital is 5%. I saved the company $40,000 or whatever that math actually was. But there are things that are quantifiable. Reduce delinquencies from X% of accounts receivable to X minus. If it's on expenses, if it's, we're able to turn around financial reporting from 13 days to 6 days that allowed our executives to make decisions more quickly, whatever it is. I don't want to speak too simplistically that every role can kind of like clearly tie to something. But what I do ask people to do is think about it in the context of, is what you were working on making money, saving money, or mitigating risk? Even if I was an executive assistant, which somebody might say, Bob, really hard to draw a line between being an EA and some of these results. But if I was enabling my boss to do his or her job better because I was taking things off their plate, developing a process that made their life easier, whatever, I'm going to take some credit. I don't mean that in a bad way, but for their accomplishments, because I was an enabler of their accomplishments. So again, I would encourage people to think about, did it help the company make money, save money, or mitigate risk?
absolutely love those examples. That's why I went into that, because like almost always, I still haven't found at the end of the day a single coach that we weren't able to find something tangible, something that means something to their potential clients, where they were able to quantify it in a certain way that was meaningful to clients. And because of that, I wanted to ask you that, and go away from sales and into some different roles that might be a little bit harder for people. And they say, oh, but I didn't do anything. I can't quantify anything, and so on. And especially this goes for our European viewers and listeners, because in Europe, we are extra shy. So, right. Even entrepreneurs in US, when you see an entrepreneur, they will, I don't know, they figured out how to trim down 1 hour in the whole work week, and they will, talk about it like it's the biggest thing that they ever accomplished. In Europe, we are completely different. Like everything is, oh no, that thing, oh, that's nothing. Many people did better than we did. So for our European viewers, this is extra important for them.
Can I build on that for half of a second?
Yes, please.
Which is, I really like hearing people talk about, I was on a team where we did this and we did that. My role on the team was X, but, speaking more collaboratively, more cross-functionally, having a we, not I, mindset and expressing yourself that way. I think also, to your point, like with, either personality type or even more culturally, like European versus American, is a way of kind of softening it a little bit that I think people actually find more attractive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a big believer, especially when I'm working with bigger companies and corporations, in building teams, not superstars.
Yes.
Because if you build superstars, well, then, what if they leave? What if they, something happens and they can't continue? So building teams, understanding that somebody is a team player by using more of the we than I, at least to me, from my perspective, is even more beneficial than somebody saying I.
Yeah, most people don't love that. And then just super quick, the benefit of having these kind of like accomplishment oriented bullets easily flips into. So Miha, tell me about a time when you helped grow a business. You're like, oh, well, that's bullet number 2 on my resume. That's bullet number 1 on my resume. And you're able to share that story again in a very, I teach the STAR methodology, right? What was the situation? The way I modified it a little bit. What was the thought process? At the end of the day, they're hiring your brain. So how did you think about it? How did you approach that problem? What was the action that you took and what was the result? And it allows you to tell a story very concisely, not be super rambly and, talk about all these other extraneous things, which is how you remembered the story, but to be on point, concise, and cogent. And again, it's basically just sort of taking those bullets on your resume and repackaging them and telling a compelling story.
Just like hero story when you do sales.
Just
and you walk people through from one side of the tunnel to the other one, or through the bridge or whatever. Oh, Bob, it's really just so lovely talking to you about these things, and I really, really see how valuable what you're saying is. These examples are really, really great. But unfortunately, we have roughly 30 minutes, and we are already a little bit above that. I mean, I would just love to do another one. Maybe, in 2-3 months time, we just hop on another LinkedIn Live and we continue from here, maybe go into a little bit some more specific situations. But for now, I still have 2 questions. Please. Question number 1, if this resonated with people and they want to connect with you and have a chat and explore the opportunity of having your guidance and help along the journey, what's the best way? Is it website, LinkedIn, something else? How should they reach out to you? And
so
who is the best fit?
Yeah. Well, hang on. So just in terms of reaching out, bob@career.club, or you can just go on career.club and, there's an info page. But if you want to, email me directly or direct message me in LinkedIn, any of those are fine. But email bob@career.club. Website is career.club. And in terms of, I think, Miha, you're getting ready to ask me, who's the ideal target?
Yes.
If you're on LinkedIn, you're probably, generally speaking, a target. My heart is for people that are in job transition actively right now or not loving what they're doing. That's my purpose, is to help people find work that they enjoy and find it quickly. So, the brand promise is get a better job faster. And what I want to teach people is, 1, that's possible, and then 2, how to go do it.
Perfect. Well, while we were talking, we got a comment from Mr. Derek, who said, great point, measurable results and accomplishments, to your point, what you mentioned. So, Derek, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here with us. And now the last question before we say goodbye. So, this is a conversation, not an interview. I don't have bullet points to ask. We go left and right. And sometimes, maybe my guests think that something is really important for the audience to hear, and maybe I didn't ask it. So I call this last thing the golden nugget of wisdom. So it's really, the floor is yours, and whatever would be those last thoughts to the audience from you.
I'll go super fast, but this whole thing was born from a meeting that I had with somebody that was very emotionally down and was like maybe some of the lowest self-confidence that I'd ever seen. And I put a post on LinkedIn called "The Most Powerful Question You Can Ask." And for a job seeker, the most powerful question you can ask isn't, do you know of a job for me? Do you have a lead? Can you introduce me to somebody? The most powerful question you can ask anybody is, how can I help you? personally or professionally, I would like to find a way to be of help to you. And that is how you build real relationships. And real relationships, are their own good. I mean, that's an end unto itself. But the reality is sowing and reaping is a principle that always works. And when you invest in your relationships and you genuinely want to help other people, it's amazing how one little kernel of corn dropped in the ground shoots up a whole, stalk of many, many ears of corn. So, my best nugget to leave people with is the most powerful question you can ever ask anybody is, how can I be of help to you?
Well, we can just add a little bit to that. What you said, genuinely, that's the most important thing.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
if you do something just because you expect something in return, that's not the right way. So I just want to emphasize what you said. It really needs to come from the heart.
It cannot be rote. Oh, by the way, I was supposed to ask you, is there anything I can do to help you?
Yeah.
No, that's terrible. But it's like, hey, in fact, in the setup, I want to make sure, Miha, I appreciate you meeting with me. I want to make sure that I spend enough time to learn a little bit about you as well, because one of my goals in a meeting like this is to figure out how I might be of help to you personally or professionally. It's like, wow, this is on this guy's agenda. It's not this, oh, I forgot to ask my last question.
Yes, absolutely agree.
So,
well, Bob, perfect ending to a really, really lovely chit chat, full of value. So I really appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for what you do, and to make some time and be my guest. It was lovely, lovely, lovely having this chat with you. So thank
Miha,
you so much.
Thank you so much. And I only go to parties I'm invited to. So if you want me to come back, ask me, and it would be my pleasure. But this has been so much fun, as always, talking to you is.
Thank you, Bob. Take care and all the best. Bye-bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Bob, an absolutely amazing guy. He really knows his stuff when it comes to this career planning, moving from one career to another, or from one role to another, from one company to another. So things that he mentioned really made very deep sense. And he gave amazing examples. So I would absolutely encourage you all to connect with Bob, send him an email, or he's tagged in this LinkedIn post, so you can just connect with him. When you connect, just say, hey, saw you all when you had the interview together with Miha, so that he will know why you're connecting with him, and just have a chat with him. I think it can be very, very beneficial. I've met Bob some time ago. He was introduced to me by a really, really good friend of mine. And through the conversations we had so far, I can really see that he knows what he's talking, and that he is just all around great human being. So thank you everybody for watching this LinkedIn Live. Next Monday we are back with another amazing guest. If you want to check out the replays from past interviews, YouTube, type in Fail Coach, type in my name, and it will pop up. While you're there, subscribe to the channel. We are now at 120 something subscribers, so each subscriber means a whole lot. And you can watch all the past interviews. Next Monday, we're back. Until then, enjoy. Hope you are healthy, safe throughout this craziness going on around the world. And I'll see you on Monday. Bye.